The past weekend, I was watching an episode of House MD, Doctor House, whatever you call it, and one particular sequence in that episode caught my eye, and I wanted to make a video using that as a driver or a prompt to talk a little bit about children and how we can engage with them. Now, this is how that sequence goes. A teenager brings his younger brother, who's barely a toddler, into the clinic for a checkup because the child has difficulty breathing, there is some kind of a congestion or whatever, and then Dr. House investigates and he proceeds to pull out a little toy, a small plastic toy of a policeman, right? And then he immediately asks the brother what he was doing when the child was actually busy ingesting this, right? And he says, "Oh, I was studying." And then in this classic characteristic style, House says, "I'm sure you are not studying," and then the banter goes on. Now, as if that was enough, the kid was brought back the very next day by the same brother, and this time instead of a policeman, it's a fire truck. And as if two times were not enough, they come back once again on the following day, and on day three, it is a fireman. So, policeman, fire truck or a fire engine, and a fireman. Right now, on day one, if we recall, these people they exchange a banter, right? Doctor's House and the teenager say he's accused of not paying attention to the child. So the teenager gets a bit defensive, and then he says, "Hey, this kid is dumb. No matter how many times he experiences pain, he's not changing." To which, quite surprisingly and uncharacteristically, Dr. House goes on to say, "Actually, I think this kid is much smarter than we give him credit for." And then he proceeds to bring out a magnetic probe of some sort. So, and he inserts it into the nose or the nostril of that child. And then he's pulling out a tiny little, even smaller toy of a cat or a toy cat that is made of metal. That kind of explains why he used a magnetic probe, right? And then what he says is this kid has a surprisingly good grasp of concepts at such a young age. And yeah, I think I concur because normally in children of that age it doesn't occur, right? And he goes on to explain to the bewildered brother that the kid had actually ingested the cat first, and he was mounting a rescue operation so that a policeman or a fireman could save his cat. Right now, if we think about how this could have happened, probably the kid pushed the cat some distance up, or the toy some distance up, and then he was trying to bring it out, but only managed to push it further up the nasal pathway. And then he suddenly decided that I cannot save the cat any longer. It now has to be done by a professional who's a policeman or a fireman. And this knowledge could have come about only probably say if he had read a book with his parents on people who help us, or watch some cartoon where firemen come and do something like this, right? Rescue somebody. Okay. And like I said, it's very unusual for children of that age to be able to generalize these things, but let's assume it's possible. So, what is the takeaway from this episode, and what does this have to do with the current return to school season? The one thing we can learn from all of this is the child was not just in the story, not just trying to do something on his own, he was also trying to communicate to the world around him that he's actually mounting a rescue operation. Only Dr. House was able to make sense of it. Likewise, every child, right, our own children, communicate through the language of play. Just like how we adults use language or verbal language to form and hold conversations, children use play to experience the world, to relate with the world, to recreate scenarios that they lived through, to re-experience things that happened to them, to sometimes create alternate scenarios that they could have set off or they could have been part of, and to experience how that feels, right? And maybe slightly older children could do things like pretend play. For example, kindergarten children, right? I think there's a common phenomenon we all experience. They come back from school after a few days, once all the crying and all is settled down, they start playing the student teacher game, right? And they'll say, "Now I am your class teacher, you are all students, now go sit." They will assign us one of their classmates' names. And sometimes when we try to be the naughty child in the class just to participate in the play, they might not have the verbiage to communicate it, but they might hold something that's like a ruler or thing, and they'll make faces to suggest that they're trying to punish us. And then we'll say, "Oh, are you punishing us?" Then they will form an association between the action and the word punish, and next time they'll say, "I will punish you." That's how they build their vocabulary. Okay, so and this happens over a course of several years, where children go from not being able to communicate effectively using verbal language to them being able to hold conversations. It takes years. Until then, play is a significant medium of communication between children and the world around them. Now, sometimes uh, as parents or elders, we are too busy. We think that when the child is playing, the child is playing. We do not pay keen attention to what they do. Some older children also have the habit of writing stories or telling stories, and quite often we don't pay attention to the fact that there are recurrent themes or recurrent patterns or recurrent types of characters of storytelling, right? And we don't question why these occur, and we just think, okay, the kid is entertaining his or her fantasies, right? But all of these are props. Toys are like words, right? Or maybe a bigger, let's say they build a Lego block or a small word. It's like how we form sentences, right? So, like I said, what language is to us, the play is to children. So, whatever they use to construct a world using play, we use words and sentences to construct our language, right? So, it really helps us, or helps if we can go and sit with the child and join them, understand their language. Just like when we go to a foreign country, we try to learn the language and then we try to assimilate and work with them or communicate with the people there. It's very important that we understand the language of play that our child has, and each child will have a unique signature. So it's good to understand that, and then join them, match their language, enter their world, right, and then experience their world with them. So we are quite close to what is happening with them. If we don't do that, sometimes we might ask a question, hey, why did you not finish your snacks today? And the child might jump around somewhere and say, yes, sir, or something like that. We might think that the child is being naughty, or they're trying to dodge us, not answer the question. But in reality, they might be telling us that during snacks time, the physical education teacher made them play, so they could not finish their snacks. Only they don't have the words to tell us that, right? So, observing play, understanding their language, understanding what play means to the child can actually really, really help us to engage better with the child, and it will pave the way for a very healthy attachment with our child. And in some extreme cases, it also kind of alerts us to some difficulties that the child may be going through in school or somewhere else, right? A lot of children are not able to kind of communicate if they have abusive teachers and all of that. Sometimes they kind of relay all of that through play. So if we know that, I hope this doesn't happen to anybody, but then we are always able to kind of understand what our children have to tell us. So I hope this was useful to you. I really thank whoever wrote that episode and created that character of the child to have been so smart, and Dr. House to have been able to pick it up for prompting me to make this video. I think it was really, really helpful. So thanks so much to whoever created that episode, and I thank you for taking the time out to listen to this. I hope it was useful once again. Thank you.